son's birthright. They saw how and in that grey morning broke their long feast, with tears and laments of the dead. Hrothgar, their lord, sat joyless in Herod, a mighty prince, mourning the fate of his lost friends and companions, knowing by its tracks some demon had torn his followers apart. He wept, fearing the beginning might not be the end. And that night Grendel came again, so set on murder that no crime could ever be enough, no savage assault quench his lust for evil. And each warrior tried to escape him, searched for rest in different beds as far from Herod as they could find, seeing how Grendel hunted when they slept. Distance was safety. The only survivors were those who fled him. Hate had triumphed.
All right, so on this portion right here, the main thing that you need to get from this is this part right here. It says, "And that night Grendel came again." So Grendel continues to murder. It says that he so set on murder that nothing was enough. So Grendel keeps murdering. Or I'll say he keeps killing. Use a little bit of alliteration there. So Grendel keeps killing the Danes. He keeps going back to Herod night after night. Nothing was enough for him. All right, so this next part says each warrior tried to escape him. They searched in different beds as far from Herod as they could find. So the Danes, they ran away from Herod. And why did they run away from Herod? They ran away to survive. All right, so they ran away to survive because it says right here, the only survivors were those who fled him. So what you get from that point is anyone who stayed in Herod was murdered by Grendel. He killed everyone who stayed in Herod for the night.
So Grendel ruled, fought with the righteous, one against many, and won. So Herod stood empty and stayed deserted for years, 12 winters of grief for Hrothgar, king of the Danes, sorrow heaped at his door by hell-forged hands. His misery leapt the seas, was told and sung in all men's ears, how Grendel's hatred began, how the monster relished his savage war on the Danes, keeping the bloody feud alive, seeking no peace, offering no truce, accepting no settlement, no price in gold or land, and paying the living for one crime only with another. No one waited for reparation from his plundering claws. That shadow of death hunted in the darkness, stalked Hrothgar's warriors old and young, lying in waiting, hidden in mist, invisibly following them from the edge of the marsh, always there, unseen.
All right, so let's look at this part. I want to point out a few things. You notice that I underlined 12 winters. So this goes on for years. 12 winters of grief. So this goes on for 12 years before eventually people in other lands began to hear about this. So this is kind of how it makes its way to Beowulf. So it finally, so the news of Grendel, and I'll add that, the news of Grendel finally makes its way to other lands. Okay. So it finally starts to spread to other lands across seas. You have to think we're talking about the Anglo-Saxon time period now. We're not talking about something that somebody can just get on social media and put, and it's, in across the sea to another land. So if you look down here, it's just basically this whole portion right here is really just saying that no matter what they did, nothing worked. And I'm going to circle this right here. This is a term that you need to know. This is a term called a kenning. It's a kenning. It's a term, and it's just a metaphorical phrase to rename something. Meaning that shadow of death is being used to rename someone. Who do you think the shadow of death is? Okay, it's pretty clear the shadow of death is Grendel. So instead of saying Grendel hunted in the darkness, it's the shadow of death. Why do you think they would call Grendel the shadow of death? And you can kind of just think about what he does. He sneaks in, right? So the shadow, I'm going to put it up here where I have room. He's unseen. And what is he doing? The shadow of death, he's killing, right? So he is the shadow of death because people don't see him. He comes in the night and he's killing the Danes. So that is a kenning for Grendel. And this is what it means over here. Okay?
So mankind's enemy continued his crimes, doing as often as he could, coming alone, bloodthirsty and horrible. Though he lived in Herod when the night hid him, he never dared to touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne, protected by God. God whose love Grendel could not know. For Hrothgar's heart was bent. The best and most noble of his council debated remedies, sat in secret sessions, talking of terror and wondering what the bravest of warriors could do. And sometimes they sacrificed to the old stone gods, made heathen vows, hoping for hell's support, the devil's guidance in driving their affliction off. That was their way, and the heathens' only hope, hell always in their hearts, knowing neither God nor his passing as he walks through our world, the Lord of heaven and earth. Their ears could not hear his praise, nor know his glory. Let them beware of those who are thrust into danger, clutched at by trouble, yet can carry no solace in their hearts, cannot hope to be better. Hail to those who will rise to God, drop off their dead bodies, and seek our Father's peace.
Okay, so this is the last portion for today. Let's just look at what we have here. Again, this part that I'm going to circle, this is another kenning. I just talked about this. A kenning is a metaphorical phrase. So mankind's enemy. And again, this is Grendel. And consider the fact that initially the story of Beowulf was passed down by word of mouth. So these are storytellers, they're entertainers. So instead of constantly saying Grendel, 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 they would put kennings in. So saying Grendel continued his crimes, the mankind's enemy continued his crimes. Okay, so let's go down a little bit further. It says that he could not touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne because it was protected by God. But Hrothgar is very sad, and we get that because it says that his heart was bent. So he's heartbroken. He's very upset about what's going on. This part is really important. They sat in secret sessions, and let's look at what they tried to do. All right, so this portion right here. They sat in secret sessions talking of terror. They're trying to figure out what they can do. They sacrificed to the old stone gods. They made heathen vows. They even turned for the devil's guidance to drive Grendel away. But nothing worked. So nothing helped. They tried everything. And I'll put that even over here. They tried everything. They tried everything, but nothing would help. The only ones who could survive were the ones who never stayed in Heorot, the ones who never tried to fight Grendel. Okay, so that kind of wraps up this part. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to your notebook, and I'll have a little bit of an explanation of what you're going to do, but you're just going to go through the main who, what, when, where, why, and how of the section so that you understand. I'll have a little bit of an introduction to that assignment, and you can go ahead and stop this video and go to your notebook.